Good morning, everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie Ramsey, and I'm the project manager for the We Can project, which is funded by FedDev Ontario through the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund. And we are, of course, led by Queen's University. So welcome back to those who have attended dozens and dozens of other workshops up to this point. It's so great to have you back. For those of you who are brand new to the event, it is so great to have you with us in a workshop. And I hope that today will be the first of many workshops and virtual cafes that you are a part of, because this community of women entrepreneurs is just awesome. I'm sure you'll discover that today. Thrilled to have Megan Hamilton with us, who's going to be presenting in just a hot minute. But before we get to that, I do want to acknowledge that, first of all, we have the live transcription happening at the bottom of your screen. So if that's helpful, I hope that you will make use of that. If you would like to hide that transcription, you just go to your live transcript button and you can click on hide. You have the option to hide that if it's distracting to you for some reason. But today's workshop is, of course, being recorded. So if anyone would like a copy, I will make sure that you have my email address in the chat later today so you can get a copy. Why don't you take a moment right now, because our workshops are certainly about connecting with each other, not only learning the material of the day. So go ahead and take a moment in the Zoom chat to let us know where you're connecting from in the world. If you have a business or some sort of an Instagram link, obviously today is about Instagram. So if you want to post a link to your Instagram, that would be great too. That just allows us to perhaps follow you back, and we can engage as we will be today, even after the show, as we say, because I know Megan has some homework for us. So take a moment to do that in the Zoom chat. Just let us know where you're from as well, if you want to put a link to your business or your Instagram. And while we're doing that, I'll take a moment to acknowledge that I am connecting to this workshop from the Bay of Quinte region. And this is the ancestral land of the Huron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And so I'm not sure how many of you know, but this past Monday, August 9th, was actually the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. And so I actually had a meeting with an Indigenous client that day. She reminded me, and so I was able to acknowledge it that day as well. Again, I'm not sure how many of you know, but there are 476 million Indigenous peoples around the world living in 90 different countries. And here in Canada, we have 1.67 million Indigenous peoples. They are, of course, the holders of a vast diversity of unique cultures, traditions, knowledge, and languages. And they have a special relationship with the lands as well, and hold diverse concepts of development based around their worldviews and priorities. And so I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that this very important date has just passed, but as well, welcome to the Indigenous members of our community. We do have many Indigenous clients, and it is our honor to serve you and to live, work, and play here on these ancestral lands. So thank you so much for those of you who are active in the chat this morning. If you're just joining us, we've asked you to let us know where you're connecting from so we can get to know you a little bit better. All right, so Megan is going to build in a couple of pauses in her workshop today for Q&A. So if you do have a question and you want to drop it into the Zoom chat, that's fine. I will be her wing woman today, doing my best to keep track of some of those questions. But we will wait for those pauses. And then at the end, there will be a Q&A session as well, so that we'll do our best to get all those questions answered today. If we don't, I'm sure Megan will be sharing some of her contact information towards the end of the workshop. And that way you can either reach out to her in the Instagram DMs or in some sort of a email address, because she has, of course, UBU Skills, which is her business, which is a thriving consultancy, which offers support to women, and I'm sure others who are looking to build their speaking skills and all of that. So you can get a lot of insights from her in this workshop, as well as after the show, as I like to say. All right, so I think we've laid the groundwork today, and you've heard enough from me. I am thrilled to pass the virtual microphone over to Megan today, back, by the way, by popular demand. This is not her first workshop with the We Can community. So Megan, over to you. It's so great to have you here today.
Thank you, Carrie. That's a very nice introduction, and I am absolutely thrilled to be back. Those of you who've been in workshops with me before will know that I was the last live workshop that we had. It was March 13th, 2020. We talked about it that day, what's going to happen, you know, where are we going? And here we are. And so I think this is my third workshop. And I love connecting with people this way. I love passing on information that I have. And so I'm just thrilled to be back. So thank you. As Carrie mentioned, and I think Carrie, you're in Belleville. So I just want to acknowledge that I am coming to you from the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississauga people from Kingston, Ontario. And I am grateful to be here. My pronouns are she and her, and I did change that in my name a couple of days ago, but it seems to have bounced back to my email. So I wanted to make sure I acknowledge that as well. What we're going to do today is sort of an overview of the video possibilities within Instagram. And I am assuming that most of us who are showing up today are entrepreneurs or small business owners or are thinking about it. And so that is the lens through which we'll be taking a look at everything. I am a speaking, visibility, and confidence coach. I help women and non-binary people control their nerves, uncover some of the reasons they've been holding themselves back, and learn how to trust their intuition so that they can speak authentically and with authority. And that's what I'm going to try to help you get closer to today as we examine the wide world of Instagram videos. I also would like to let you know that I am the speaker advisor for the local TEDx at Queen's. I am an executive coach at Queen's University, and I also teach at St. Lawrence College. I teach a theater course, which has been very interesting during the pandemic. So without further ado, let's get started. So my first question for everybody is, how many of you use videos on Instagram, and what's your favorite type? If you don't use videos and you don't know about all the different kinds, don't worry about it. We're going to go over that in detail. Oh, hi, Barbara. Yes, you were there. I remember. That's where, did we meet there? Had we met already? I can't remember, but yes, I remember you were there. So I'm going to write that I use Instagram and I love reels and stories. Stories and IGTV. Yep, that's a great one. Oh, perfect, Magda. Paula, only stories. Stories and posting. Okay. So you can continue to plunk things into the chat if you feel comfortable, and we'll move on to the next one. I need to master the video on IG. So far, okay with Facebook. Okay. I've mostly avoided videos. I relate to that. Not a huge fan of reels. I love TikTok though. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I do stories, but I wish I could do reels, but my Instagram doesn't get updated. Oh, that's interesting. Just joined Instagram this month and watching a lot of videos. That is a great plan, Holly Marie. I actually will talk about that a little bit as well. How to get ideas, how to see what's popular, and sort of use some of those things in order to get more visibility with your videos. Because there are some tricks to the Instagram algorithm that everybody, you know, if you follow people who are Instagram coaches, will talk about. And it's always changing and it can feel really frustrating. And so we'll talk about what to do about that as well. How many of you are reluctant / petrified of using video, and what are a couple of your reasons? If you want to share those in chat as well. Okay. Struggle with exposure. It's me looking silly or amateur in presentation or production. Me, but only because I don't have the technical skills. I don't actually know how to do it. Oh, great, Amanda. We'll talk about that a little bit today. Oh, hi, Amanda. It's you. Don't know how to make them and make them look professional. Okay, not sure what to put in the video. Make me look stupid. 100%. That is probably everybody's secret reason. put myself in front of the camera instead of behind. All of the above. Yeah. Okay. So we are all feeling the anxiety around videos, and I'm going to let you know a few other things that clients have told me over time. One is the permanency. And so if you do an IG live or if you do a video and it exists there, right? And it's the same with your Facebook. Now, we all know that ultimately you can take it down if you want to, but there's something about showing up and making something permanent that can feel really, really daunting. I know for me, I'm also a musician. I can play a guitar line perfectly in my room where I do all my music. The second they hit record, even after all these years, I get, and like it'll take me a few rounds before I can do it in a way that feels good and isn't full of stiffness and mistakes. And it is simply the mindset shift of knowing that you're being recorded instead of just not even thinking about that and being able to flow in the moment. Feeling incompetent, totally. I just started, but so far only my hands appeared in the video, but slowly I'll be brave enough to show myself. Amazing, Louisa. Okay. So here's the next thing, because as small business owners and entrepreneurs, we've been hearing all of the rumors. Instagram is going to stop sort of helping promote your posts. So your still images and are only going to focus on video. They are taking, hints from TikTok and sort of what people want. And we've been talking through in the marketing channels about videos for the last few years. I was very reluctant to really think about it. It just seemed like just another thing to add to my list, and social media was already taking up a fair amount of my time. Making videos, trying to be presentable, thinking about my background, what I was wearing, what kind of camera I was going to use, all of those things just seemed like a no, someday later. And then now, everything that you're reading about what's popular in marketing is videos. And so this is why I think it's really important to learn the ins and outs of videos, and especially with Instagram, so that you can start to build your confidence. It may be that ultimately you just can't do it. It's just not going to work for you. And that's going to be your decision that you feel into. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. There are always going to be people found in any avenue that you're looking. If videos really don't end up being where you want to be, don't do them. But you're not going to know unless you try. And so let's just spell it out as easily as possible and see what we can do. 92% of marketers say it's an important part of their marketing strategy. Okay, so that's a lot. Let's take a look at the Instagram video types. We have posts, we have stories, and I'll go into detail about this in the next few slides as well. You will also have access to these slides afterwards, which I think will be really useful for those of you who don't use Instagram very much, to remind yourself of what everything is, because as you can see, there are 5 different types of videos. And that's just videos, because there's lots of other stuff too. We have stories, we have reels, lives, and IGTV. All of them interact with each other in certain capacities, and we can talk about the mechanics of that as well. How did I learn all of this? Just by doing it, honestly. I'm on Instagram a lot. That is my social media platform of choice. I've started to dabble in TikTok. I have a Facebook page. I have a Twitter account. I use those, but the engagement is nowhere near what it is with Instagram. And so I like it. And I think that's part of it. So I started to see what other people were doing, give it a try. And that's how I learned everything. So let's talk about posts. Posts are going to be what most of us are familiar with. Post your vid, and so specifically for this workshop, we are going to talk about videos within your posts. So posts are, when you go to someone's grid and you see the squares. Your grid is when you go to someone's account and you see all the squares there. Those are what are called your posts. So they can be up to 1 minute total per segment for a video. And it might be 59 seconds actually, with up to 10 in a carousel. So multiple segments within a post. Okay. We're just going to go through everything quickly. And some of this stuff you sort of have to mess around with to really understand what it does. Your posts can be shared in stories, but not as a video, just as a still form, like a photograph with a little triangle indicating that you can click through to the video. Thanks, Christine. It is overwhelming. And we'll talk about the mechanics at the end. I'll have a little period for Q&A, okay? Stories. Stories come in 15-second increments. If you're filming through the stories function or uploaded, it can be 1 minute max of a total. So that would be 4 15-minute increments following. Your stories only last for 24 hours. So anything you put, and so if you're on Instagram and you click someone's picture, it'll give you their live stories happening. Those only last for 24 hours. You can save your stories and highlights to last forever. Lots of stickers and functionality available to give further instructions, including a new post, or you can use the closed captioning function. Whenever I am speaking on Instagram, I always, aside from maybe 1 or 2 times when I forget, use the closed captioning function to make it more accessible. That is also helpful for people who might be scrolling their phone during a work meeting or somewhere where they can't sort of give volume. That way they can read what you're saying without having to turn on the volume. You can share to stories using the paper airplane that you see in different posts. And so that's how we share things to stories. You'll see this sort of, it looks like a triangle with a little line through it. It's a paper airplane. And basically the idea is that you're sending it somewhere else and you're sending it to stories. Okay. Reels. So this is the latest thing that Instagram is offering. It is a direct result of the popularity of TikTok. And usually Instagram is a little bit behind whatever the latest thing is that TikTok is doing. So if you've been on TikTok at all, you'll probably have a pretty good understanding of how Reels work. Some of the functionality is different and the way things get set up is different, but the idea of building them is very, very similar. So with Reels, and a lot of this is new information, and even some of it within the last couple of days. So I did my research to make sure that I was as on top of things as possible. If any of you know something even more relevant than what I've put down, please let me know, because it just means that I have missed it. So Reels can be 15, 30, or 60 seconds in terms of what you create as a recording, but they can actually be any amount in between. So if you want to create a reel and you know it's going to be short, you can say that it's going to be 15 seconds, and then it might end up being 7. One of the currently popular types of posts that Instagram is promoting. So Reels are sort of where you're going to get a lot of activity if you're posting Reels. There's so many different things to consider, but if you're using sounds that are also popular with other Reels on Instagram right now, you post at a certain time, you get a lot of engagement right away. Those are the things that are going to send your Reel to be seen by a lot of new people to you. And so that'll get put in their sort of search function. They will see your Reel, and you'll notice that your numbers, your views for Reels will go up really high. You can start to get a sense of when this is going to happen. All of a sudden you look and you've got maybe 79 views, and then you refresh 5 minutes later and you have 1,079 views, and then you know that it's getting some traction. It's really important to pay attention to things like that and to note down things like, what time did you post the Reel? Because that for me has been one of the most important pieces that I've noticed. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30, that's typically, and not always, when whatever Reel I post is going to make it past 1,000. And that's usually my goal. So reels are where you can create short film-like posts with editing features like music, green screen, remixing, adding a split screen of your response to somebody else's reel. You don't have to worry about all of those things. But if you get curious and want to get creative, you can. We always feel like we see other people's reels and it looks like they were made from a production company, and sometimes they are. But you can do reels with your own equipment, with your own stuff in your own house, and they can go just as far and help you bring new relationships on Instagram, which is the whole point of doing this, right? You can have 10,000 views on a reel, but nobody sends you a DM to ask you about what you're doing. Feels good to get 10,000 views, but you're not building relationships. So we've got to think about why we're on social media. You can share reels to your stories with video functionality in your story. So like I said earlier, if you share a post video to your stories, it's going to be a still picture. If you share a reel, the actual video is going to play in your story. And I think this is another way of Instagram being very precise about how they make functionality, because they are pushing people to do reels so that more people will come. It can be pushed as a post to your grid as well. Similar functions within the segment like stories, and so stickers and closed captioning, that all of that is available to you with reels as well. Is there an app that can make videos for reels easy, more attractive, and fun? There may be, Paula. I actually find the functionality within Instagram really easy to use now that I've had a lot of practice. And if anybody has some tips for Paula or suggestions, then please go ahead. There was a time when you could make Instagram or TikToks and then post them in reels. But now I have heard that if they have the TikTok watermark, which is where it shows that it was made in TikTok, then reels actually sort of tries to keep them quiet because it doesn't want to be promoting TikTok. And again, for a lot of you who are just starting out, all of this is like, what is she talking about? And I totally get it. This is a very broad overview, and then we'll do some real work a little bit later. So then we have your lives. So these are going to be similar to your Facebook lives. Barbara, you mentioned earlier that you're really comfortable with Facebook lives. Instagram lives are basically exactly the same. So that is when you go live through your stories and people tune in and pay attention to what you're doing. You can now be live for up to 4 hours. And Instagram started that in response to online learning so that some teachers would be able to teach their classes that way. So they made the availability for 4 hours. I cannot imagine being on a live for 4 hours. I can't imagine watching anything for 4 hours, but there you have it. It allows different functionality. So you can ask users to use the question function to answer questions. And then that way, so tomorrow, for example, at 10 o'clock, I'm doing a live Q&A with a former client of mine because I'm trying to sell a new program that I'm doing called the Big Voices Masterclass. She participated in May. So she and I are going to go live together from my Instagram account. And people are going to be able to ask her questions about the program. I'm going to ask them to use the question function so that it's easy to keep track and make sure that you've answered each person's question. So that's a functionality with the live. And then when you're finished your live, Instagram gives you the option to save to IGTV. So I'm not sure if it can save the entire 4 hours. If you are planning to do something for 4 hours live, I would look into that and see if it'll save the whole thing. But I know for sure it will save at least up to 60 minutes. Browsing people's comments and making sure I'm not missing too much. So finally, we have IGTV. This can be for a maximum of 60 minutes if it's uploaded from your computer. So let's say you make a video that you want to have available on your Instagram account. Let's say you make a training video that you want to make available to everybody, and you have it professionally done and it lives as a file in your computer. You can upload that to IGTV through your computer There's a lot more functionality of Instagram these days on your computer than there used to be. It used to be that you had to do everything through your phone, but now there are a few things you can do through your computer. And if you have a video on your phone that you've already got, it will only take up to 15 minutes. Unless it's transferred from IG Live. I know this is a lot, but this will be helpful for some of us who have been using Instagram a lot. And then later you can refer to this once you get more into it, and it'll be helpful unless it's changed. You can use the swipe up. This is the great thing about using IGTV. So if you've been on Instagram for a little while, you'll know about the swipe up, right? This is where you can actually link to other things from your Instagram account. It is only available to people who have 10,000 plus followers. So what this would mean is, let's say I wanted, so the workshop that I was talking about, the Big Voices Masterclass, if I wanted people to go directly to that link, I could post about it in my stories and then click link and link to an outside source outside of Instagram to tell people to register here. And then they would go straight to registration. That is only available to people who have 10,000 plus followers. But what you can do is link directly to IGTV. So if I have a video from a Q&A I did with another person who took my Big Voices Masterclass, which I do, I can link to that IGTV within my stories. And so it'll take them directly there. And it's like a swipe up. So that's where the functionality of the IGTV I find I use the most, is when I want to direct them to specific videos that live within my account. And it will show a 15-second preview when shared to stories. So again, it's going to show you 15 seconds of that IGTV video within your stories. The only type of video that won't play in your stories is if you're sharing a post. So for those of us who are feeling completely overwhelmed, I super get it. Try to like forget most of this, and we'll just focus on the basics, okay? I cannot stress strongly enough the importance of the social aspect of social media, instead of thinking of it as transactional. There's a fabulous podcast, and I've mentioned it in a different workshop before, by Simone Sewell, called Joyful Marketing. And she talks about transactional marketing. So that is when you put something into social media and are expecting it to be transactional so that you will get clients from that. Yes, ultimately, we all want to be driving new people to us, meeting new people, getting them into our funnels or whatever, however you operate your business. But if you're just out there posting advertisements for your videos and just sort of posting stuff and not engaging with people, you might as well not do that. Because frankly, when people go on social media, they go to engage with people, to engage with businesses, to learn a little bit about the business owner, to see if your values align, to see if you feel like it would be a good fit, especially for those of us who are coaches. Your clients want to know what you're like, to see if your potential clients want to know what you're like, to see if you'd be a good fit. And it's also going to get rid of people who probably wouldn't be a good fit. And you might have a couple of emails with them or even a discovery call, only to find out that it's not really going to work. This can eliminate some of those steps. And I know that sometimes it can feel really daunting to think, well, I don't want to repel people. As a small business owner, I do. I want to work with people who are a good fit, where I can feel like I'm being my best self, and I don't feel like I have to quiet down for people or show up differently than I otherwise would. And that's why, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, I'm on it all the time. I talk about politics. I talk about what my beliefs. I talk about what I think is cool.
The food,
Oh, Doreen, I think you, yeah, okay. And that helps me build relationships with people that sometimes leads to clients. And sometimes it doesn't. And that's okay too, because I enjoy being on Instagram, having exchanges with people, learning about people, being myself, and putting myself out there. And that, I think that is where people get messed up. They think, well, I went on Instagram and I tried doing some posts and nothing happened, so it's just a waste of time. If you are not engaging with people, asking questions, figuring out what people are like, and it doesn't always have to be about your business. It can be asking people about their vacations, whatever it is. It's just building relationships. It becomes so much more fun than if you feel like you have to be behind the screen of professional, certain kind of parameters that you feel are important. That can make it really unfun. And Instagram could be a super fun place to be once you start feeling more comfortable being yourself on Instagram. So I know there's a lot of stuff happening in the chat here, and I will get to it. Actually, this is a great time. Why don't we ask some questions? Because we said, Carrie, that we were going to pause, and I haven't done that yet. Yes, the podcast I mentioned is Joyful Marketing with Simone Soul. Sharing videos. Okay, so you guys are sorting that out. Is there any questions that were asked that I haven't answered yet? You can just repost them in the chat. Or Carrie, do you see anything that I haven't responded to?
No, I think we've been chatting back and forth. One question I guess I wasn't 100% sure about was someone asked if someone posts an Instagram story, somebody else, you can't share that Instagram story, right? I don't believe I've ever, is there a way to do that?
That is a great question. The only way you can share somebody else's story is if it relates to you and they have tagged you in it. So Carrie, you'll remember that. And for those of you who follow the Queen's We Can account, I would post that I'm doing this workshop and I would tag the Queen's We Can account. That way it shows up in their messages and it gives them the option to reshare. So if you are ever hoping to, get your stuff on more eyes and you are involved with somebody, you can tag them in a post and hope that they will also share that to their stories. And that can sometimes signal boost your business to somebody else's audience, which is another great idea. Part of the reason it's awesome to do Q&As or Instagram lives with other accounts is because your people can see what's happening, but their people can also see what's happening. And so it's another great way to extend your audience base and to meet new people and to form new relationships.
I see Paula has her hand up. Paula, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah.
Yes. So Megan, I understand when you use the hashtag, the person on the other side has the option to reshare our posting. Does also that means when you use that hashtag, the Instagram algorithm are gonna get your posting and put in front of people that follow that hashtag? Is it how it works?
Yes. So that's a really great point, Paula, and I'm glad you brought it up because that allows me to distinguish between tagging people and using a hashtag. So I'm going to put in the chat. So here's what tagging a person looks like. And here's what a hashtag looks like. So if you want somebody to share one of your stories, then you will use the @ function to tag that account. When we're using hashtags, if somebody is following a specific hashtag, so let's say YGK small business, which is a great hashtag for the Kingston and surrounding areas business community, I follow that hashtag. So that means, as you say, Paula, that anybody who's following that hashtag, it will show up at some point in their feed. And so the feed, I didn't even mention the feed. The feed is when you go on Instagram and you just sort of see all the posts that are coming up and you scroll through. Does that answer your question, Paula? Yeah, okay, good. All right.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Oh, hi there. I'm sorry
Hi.
I'm joining you late because I'm disappointed because this sounds like it's exactly what I need to learn about. Um,
It's being recorded, so you can get the recording.
yes, I see that it's being that's why I didn't put myself on camera quite yet. um, well, Megan, I have a couple of businesses and I have been resistant to really jump into social media. So much of it is word of mouth and kind of silently. What what my primary concern is, because I want to do it perfectly. And I know if you wait till be perfect, I coach entrepreneurs on the actual issues that I personally have. So, for
That's
example,
what
and
makes us good at those things.
that,
We know how to tell other people what to do.
yeah, this the superpower, right? Um, but if I was to start a new Instagram page, for example, for one business, does that my resistance often happens because I feel like everyone that currently follows me will know what I'm doing. And it's not that I don't want them to, it's just that I will start faster if I don't have to do it perfectly, as in to impress every, my personal social circle at this moment.
Right.
So
Okay.
then my fear
So
is, Megan, that when the moment I join, like I start another Instagram account, because I do have a couple of others, that all of my current followers will be made aware of my new account.
no,
No?
they won't. Nope. If you start an entirely new Instagram account and you want to just sort of set it up before anybody has a chance to see it,
Mhm.
you can make it private and then nobody can see it until you're ready to make it public. But
Right.
chances are that,
Also been one of those.
yeah, chances are that people might find you, but
Mhm.
they're not going to be alerted to the fact that you've made a new account.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. Then but then at the same time, I again based on perfection, and it's so much easier to do it for someone else than yourself, because you know how the Instagram stories, like how to do it properly and have it flow nicely and have color symmetry and do a different images that kind of blend together and match. So when you were to look at the entire page, it just makes beautiful sense.
That sounds like a value that is really important to you. And absolutely.
You're a great coach, I
I
can tell, Megan.
I don't care about any of that stuff.
Great.
I really don't. I go on Instagram stories and we'll get to that in a little bit because I want to make sure that we keep going forward here. But I show up whatever's going on. Yesterday I posted in my pajama shirt and no makeup and like humid hair. So Carrie and I were talking about having big humid hair.
Mhm.
For some people, that is not like,
And with the story, that's okay because the story doesn't last forever.
yep,
But
unless you save it to your highlights.
right.
Yes.
But the Instagram page itself does.
Yes. But you can delete anything. And so if you're trying to create sort of a visual symmetry, then yeah, you may want to develop your grid before you
Right.
push your Instagram account and make it public.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Well, thank you, Megan. I have a million other questions, but we'll move on.
Okay. Thanks, Tanya. And keep them, write them all down so that you can ask me. And as I said to Carrie earlier, I'll comb through the chat after and you can always send more questions and I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. And I'll sort of create a big email that Carrie can
Never
send out
mind.
or we'll
I'm going to go
figure
and
out what to
follow
do.
you, Megan. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay. My account is at UBU Skills.
Okay, great. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, Tanya. Okay. So the entire point of social media, again, is social. When you start to think of it as building relationships instead of finding customers, it takes on a whole other tone and it feels so much better in my experience. And that is a lot of what Simone Sowell in her Joyful Marketing podcast talks about that I mentioned earlier. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, so how often do you talk about your products or services on video on Instagram? Do you wish it was more? Do you feel confident on video? And you can respond to any or all of those questions in the chat. As you're poking them in there, I'm going to tell you that even as a speaking coach, I'm a classically trained actor. I'm a professional musician. I've toured across Canada. I have been doing this performance, some type of performance for 28 plus years at this point. I was very reluctant to start doing videos on my professional account. I had a music Instagram account, and I would post videos that people would send me of my live performances, or I would do show posters or stills or things like that. Live videos were always tricky for me. And especially as a speaking coach, I thought, well, if I look weird, or, people aren't going to want to work with me. And those are, I'm telling you this because I'm assuming that a lot of people feel this way. I have also been doing a lot of business masterminds. I've been in a lot of different groups over the last couple of years, and we all started to talk about how important video was. And as I started to watch more videos on Instagram and follow more people who were similar to me, I realized people just want to know who you are. I am very careful with where I spend my money. I like to support women. I like to support people within the BIPOC community. I like to support people within the LGBTQ plus community. I like to be very careful about where I put my dollars. And so I will follow accounts that I'm interested in to see if our values align, if I think this person, if I like this person. And especially with coaches, the last three coaches that I worked with, I found them on Instagram and I liked them so much, and I knew we would be a good fit. And I'm telling you that I spent $5,000 from liking people on Instagram and knowing that they would be a good fit for me. So there's money on the table for those of us who can build up the courage to believe that people just want to know us, and they want to know us for who we are. And I even, I have a client that I work with a lot, and she says, videos, actually, I don't even know, she might be here. She says, videos are not part of my brand. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Why not? And she thought about it and realized that was just a story she told herself so that she wouldn't have to show up on video. So it's really important to ask yourself, if it feels like it's not part of your brand, why not? Isn't our brand to be telling people about what we do, trying to get people interested, building relationships? What better way than showing up as yourself and being passionate about what you're selling, whether it's a product, whether you're selling candles, or whether you're selling coaching, something to help people. As a competitive speaker, performance anxiety is very real, and we are all self-conscious as people. Absolutely. I don't feel confident in videos. That's showing up here to learn. Excellent. And we're going to get to that in a second as well. Never, yes, and yes, please. Yes, I wish I was more. I can see using video as a conversation. Okay, I see it. I see it. And I feel all of you so hard, because like I said before, I was absolutely not going to show up on video in my UBU skills account when I first started off. I thought I would repel people. I thought if I'm going to teach people how to be a good speaker, I had to be a perfect speaker, really engaging, showing up like Barack Obama. And what that did was made me stiff. It made me not be myself. It made me have a string of clients that weren't amazing fits. And through time, because you have to give yourself lots of time and expansion to be able to explore who you are when you show up on Instagram, I realized that what worked for me was showing up as myself. And oh yeah, Carrie, that's awesome. Carrie has just started a new platform and it is really cool. I highly recommend going to check it out. Barbara says, people place too much importance on what people will think. However, people move on so quickly to the next thing. It's time to get over what you think people will perceive. 100%. We are all just scrolling through Instagram most of the time. Every once in a while we stop, or if there's somebody we really like, we'll probably read through their posts and get inspired. But you're right, Barbara. And like, I've had people reference posts that I've done and I don't even remember doing them myself. So chances are that most of the other people following me are also not remembering every single thing I do. I have reposted reels before because they didn't get much engagement and I put a lot of time into them and had tons of engagement the second time I posted them. Nobody remembered that I'd already posted that. Or if they did, they didn't care. So nobody cares as much as you think they do. They really, 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 really don't. Okay. So now we're going to talk about confidence. It happens over time. It requires pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. We all know this, but we need these reminders. You got to be open to and learn from your mistakes. And I cannot stress this enough. I will tell this to anybody who will listen. I call myself a speaking visibility and confidence coach. I can't teach you how to be confident. Nobody can. You have to live it. You have to build your experience. You have to step into confidence yourself. I can give you tons of resources and tools and training, and you've got to do the work because confidence comes from within, and you have to commit to it. And growth feels crappy sometimes. I am doing a visibility challenge in Instagram right now, and I was encouraging people last week to talk about something controversial or an opinion you have that is maybe not everybody's going to agree with, but that is important to you and your values, because I think that's really important. And I had some negative comments directed at me, and that felt really, really bad. And I wanted to take it down immediately. I didn't want to have to deal with any of this. I thought, I can't, it was hurtful. It hurt my feelings. And then I remembered that growth is uncomfortable and it was important for me to live my values. And so I let myself feel uncomfortable for a few days, and now I feel fine. But growth is uncomfortable. Building confidence is uncomfortable. It's the only way to get there. So just remember that. I know you know that, but we need to hear that and be reminded of that sometimes. So where do we begin? I know I should be confident, but I don't know how to start. I don't know what to do. And so this is where I am going to go back to the 4 basic elements of speaking. And these are translated to video. I'm not going to go into as much detail. Some of you will have taken workshops with me before and had sort of my hour or 2 hour long workshop about this. I'm going to cover this really, really quickly. If this is of interest to you and you want to learn more, I have a free public speaking guide that you can grab from my website, ubuskills.com. It's on the first page. There's a workbook that you first see, and then you scroll down a little bit, I think, and then you get my free public speaking workshop. I can't remember what the front page looks like right now. If it's not there, then I'll tell you how to find it. Or if I'm allowed to, Carrie, I can post that link in the chat. Yeah, there's my website. And if you can't see the way to get the free public speaking guide, then I'll post the direct link to that. So that covers these 4 elements in even greater detail. Can you have a session on case studies, how businesses grow with IG marketing? Monetizing for me. Can you have a session? So Jazz, I am not actually an Instagram expert. I'm sharing with you everything I've learned, but that's this kind of stuff that I don't really know about. But maybe that would be a great opportunity, Carrie, to have somebody else come in and talk about how to monetize from your IG. Here's the speaking bare bones. Okay. This is what I always say you go back to when you're feeling nervous, when you're feeling unsure. These are the things you always know how to do. And you start with one. And there's a reason why they're in this order. And this is where the speaking training comes in. And you can use this for videos. Standing, using the principles of Alexander technique. Breathing, using controlled breathing to stay calm, and deep breathing to support a strong voice. Speaking, using something called your optimum pitch, so that you have a full and resonant voice that is supported by how you're speaking. And reading. And this is where you write out your text ahead of time. This is going to be really helpful for those of you who are coming on video and you want to be as prepared as possible. Reading using a technique called text mapping. And again, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail for this because that's a whole other workshop, but I do want to go over the basics because I think this is really, really important. It's really hard to see this, but essentially what you want to ensure is that you are carrying your body in a way that is supportive to what you're trying to do, allows you to be open, allows energy to move through you so that you can be passionate about what you're talking about, because people feed on passion. I could watch somebody talk about computer programming for an hour if I could see how excited they were about computer programming. And I can tell you this from experience because I have seen a lot of things that I'm not really interested in the thing that people are talking about, but I am when they're done, because they are so into it and it is so engaging to watch somebody be really excited about something. And that doesn't mean that you have to go on and be this, have like fake excitement or somehow make it really big or something that feels completely unnatural. But you can also allow yourself to get the tingles when you're talking about what you think is really cool, because that is infectious for other people. And the way that we can allow that to happen in our body is by opening up and standing using these principles of Alexander technique. And again, it allows energy to flow through you, so you're not getting stuck in certain positions and letting your energy decline. For those meetings that we're on for several hours, there's a way of sitting using Alexander technique that, again, it just helps to keep your energy levels high so that you're not sinking into sort of slumps, losing your focus, not really able to engage. You definitely don't want to show up on video unless you are really opening up physically. And as a reminder, for a lot of women, that can feel uncomfortable. Depending on what you've experienced in your life, we often will sort of hunch forward to protect ourselves. And so opening up, especially in the front part of your body, can feel very, very vulnerable. So just keep that in mind. If that is you and you start to do this work and you're like, oh, I feel really extra scared, then just know that that is normal and give yourself lots of time to get comfortable with it. So the next is breathing. And honestly, controlled breathing, I talk about this a lot. I think it is one of the best tools that we can put in our toolbox. That is when you decide ahead of time when you're going to breathe, instead of just letting your sort of autopilot brain breathe for you. I recommend breathing in for a certain amount of time, holding for that equal amount of time, and releasing for double that time. And here's why. When you hold your breath in that open position, you're allowing your intercostal muscles, which are the muscles between your ribs, to stretch out for that period and be more malleable so that you can continue to take even deeper breaths. When you breathe out for double of what you breathed in, you are stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest function. which means that you're letting your brain know that you're not in fight, flight, freeze mode, which is what most of us are going to feel when we're doing videos. You're sending that signal to your brain so it's not pumping your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline, which is what is creating all of the physical manifestations that we experience when we're doing public speaking or speaking in front of videos. And, you know, if you feel comfortable, you can, bye Amanda, you can pop into the chat, like, what are some of the things you've experienced before when you have to do public speaking or speaking in front of a video? Most of us have experienced sweating, shaking voice, our voice raises in pitch, headaches, thumping in your chest. You get it. we've all had it. And if anybody has any more, you can go ahead and pop them in the chat. Controlled breathing is the quickest way to let your brain know you're not in danger. Your brain is just trying to protect you from doing something hard or scary because it doesn't want you to feel badly, because it doesn't recognize the difference between being chased by a tiger or having a bad Instagram live. So it's just going to do whatever it can. It will also tell you things that aren't true, like you're not good at this, or who do you think you are, getting on Instagram and telling people about what you want to talk about. All of these things are just your brain's way of trying to protect you, but you can control that, again, with controlled breathing. Speaking using your optimum pitch. So again, I'm not going to get into the mechanics of this right now, but your optimum pitch essentially is the most optimal sound that you can make. Even if you're using a microphone, as listeners, we pick up when we hear resonant sound. And that means that sound is vibrating all through your body and not just sort of in your head, which is where most of us tend to typically speak, especially women. Men often naturally speak in their optimum pitch. Women, we usually have to find it. We've been socially trained through the years to be pleasant and to have sort of a higher pitched voice sometimes than what naturally would just come out of our bodies. So there's a way to figure out how to find your optimum pitch. And again, that would be in the guide. And it's also here in basic form in the slides, so you can come back to that later and take a look at it and practice. I am always happy to field questions about this. You are always welcome to email me and ask questions if something doesn't make sense. Reading, so this is using your text mapping, so you can easily write everything out and speak directly to the camera, simulating eye contact. So let's say you want to get on Instagram stories and talk about the latest candle that you made for your company that you think is amazing, but you're feeling really, really nervous about getting on camera. Here's what I would recommend. I would recommend writing out a paragraph of what you want to say, word for word, exactly how you want to say it, using all of making sure you're highlighting the different points, what's great about this candle, you know, why people would like it, et cetera, et cetera. And then practice it and use text mapping to be able to map it out, decide where you're going to breathe. Text mapping also bakes in controlled breathing into the process, which means it helps keep you stay calm. And again, I go into detail with that in the free guide. And then you're going to know exactly what you're going to say when you get on camera. And at first, that's going to feel stiff. A lot of clients at first will tell me, oh, I don't want to read from a text. I sound like a robot. And yes, most of us do, until we have the actual training that helps us learn how to engage with the text and bring it to life, but also ensures that we're not wasting people's time. Because I've watched a lot of Instagram videos, and I am 100% guilty of this too, where people are going on, and I just don't want to watch anymore. And that's, you know, happens to the best of us. But when we are precise and when we think ahead of what we want to say, you're ensuring that you're not going off topic, that you're not using words that aren't really relevant, that you know exactly what you want to say, how you want to say it. You use the text mapping to help you connect to what you're saying and craft it out. And then you want to speak to the camera because as an audience, we feel like you're making eye contact with us. And you'll notice even throughout this entire workshop, I'm looking away from the camera and collecting my thoughts and then coming back to the camera. That's what text mapping allows you to do. You don't want to solely be speaking into the camera like this the whole time, because not unlike excess eye contact, it's uncomfortable. And it's not how we speak to each other. We don't lock eyes with each other for an hour and just keep speaking to each other like this. It's way too intense. And you don't want to do that to audience members. So you want to make sure that you are, thinking about looking away from the camera. And then you want to make sure that you are speaking to your ideal client. What does that person look like? What kind of stuff are they into? You can even be like, what's their name? How do you have a conversation with them? Is it easy? Do you feel like you have to use more professional language? How does that work? And then when you're speaking to the camera, you are imagining that person behind the camera so that you can be more natural. You are speaking specifically to a person. And that person who does exist, those people who are your ideal clients, they're gonna go, oh, I feel like this is for me. And they're gonna lock onto that. And that is where, again, we are building relationships. We are creating a social element to social media. And we are being human, talking to other humans. That is what is going to help us create relationships, not trying to emulate something else that isn't who we authentically are. Those are my 4 elements. And we're going to move on in a second, but I want to open this up for questions, and I want to make sure that I haven't missed anything in the meantime. Does anybody have any questions? I won't be able to go into like a super amount of detail for these 4 elements, but if there's anything that's really glaringly not making sense to you, then please go ahead and ask. Yeah, Jen Baker is awesome. I just saw her in a parking lot a couple of days ago. Carrie, have I missed anything?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it looks like people are sharing resources, which is excellent. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the creation phase of today. So if you'll recall in the Eventbrite dialogue, there is an option today for making a video with help from me. And I think the best way for us to do this is once I've gone through the slides, I'm going to open it up for camera so that I can show you certain things on Instagram, because I think that will be helpful for a few people, and also allow for questions if people are creating stuff and have questions as they go through. But I want to know, and you tell us in the chat, what is your client's biggest problem and how do you help solve it? So earlier today, I sort of, and I'll just show you this actually. Talk about text mapping. This is my blurb, and I keep it by my computer at all times because I do a lot of workshops, and this is how I introduce myself. And so my clients' problems are: I help women and non-binary people control their nerves, uncover some of the reasons they've been holding themselves back, and learn how to trust their intuition so that they can speak authentically and with authority. So I help people who are afraid of looking stupid feel more comfortable. That's my my quick translation. How about all of you? Tell me what your clients' biggest problems are and how do you help solve them?
Hi, Megan, I can talk.
Yeah, go for it.
My clients' biggest problems are I'm an ADHD specialist, and I specialize, well, I actually haven't specialized because I love speaking and helping anyone with the gift of ADHD. However, I do particularly love female entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs who've lived a lifetime of misunderstanding themselves And my clients' biggest problem is, navigating life with this new understanding, or perhaps the sudden realization that they possess this phenomenal gift that they've always, because of a neurotypical society, we've always looked at it as more of a curse. And it's I suppose their biggest issue, and the number one thing I would like to do, is pull out their gifts and help them highlight their gifts versus um, their miscomings, or what they're not good at, and what society tends to view as a problem. And that is that's absolutely life changing for women. And really, for me, the biggest issue is to reach these women, because it's 10% of the population, and women 25 and older are often have never known. We're known as the lost generation. So we've lived a lifetime being diagnosed with perhaps anxiety, depression, bipolar. No one understands us. And once we find each other, and those gifts can resonate within us, it changes not only our lives, but the lives of those around us and generations to come, because it's genetic. And it will show up in the gene pool moving forward. And yeah.
Okay, so Tanya, I have so many things to say. First of all, everything you just said lets me know how much you care about your clients, how much you know about ADHD, what you want for people, what you want their outcome to be, how caring a person you are, because you were very careful with how you chose your language. And you could 100% just go on your phone and record all of that to let people know a little bit about you. I know that might sound like, what? Never. However, for those people who are neurotypical, who, as Sammy, and hey, Sammy, I didn't know you were going to be here. I'm so happy to see you. As Sammy, and okay, I am all over the place, but because I follow a lot of women entrepreneurs, and so many of them have ADHD, and I would love, maybe there is a study, I don't know, but I would love.
ADHD is the entrepreneur superpower.
Is it? Okay.
Well, absolutely. This is where do you think I get most of my clients? Things like this. I'm just waiting for the chat box to light up. But that's not why I come. I come to hear you, and there's an additional benefit. However, absolutely, ADHD, we flock to entrepreneurialism for a multitude of reasons. That being said, the same great qualities that make us phenomenal entrepreneurs also, not used properly, could wind people up in the prison system, which I also work with. So right. And we do have barriers. There are barriers, but left, the creativity, the desire, the motivation, the energy is second to none. And that's why the greatest entrepreneurs in history are those with ADHD. And it's women that it's this age of women, we're just finding out, we're just learning, and it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer.
100%. And so Tanya, tell me, are you on Instagram, and have you started sharing this wonderful information with people on your account?
No, because of course, I share with many people. I speak, I coach, I change people's lives on a daily basis. I really do. And I just recently turned 50, and my passion and desire for a late in life learner, as most of us women are, is, time is precious and time matters, because there's women out there that are feeling the way that I felt. And I would help them and share with them for free every single day of the week. when it comes to myself personally and putting myself online, I'm working on rolling that out. Again, I have the perfectionism issue too, because I don't want to just throw out and say, you know, I'm an ADHD expert, I have ADHD, because I have to do that properly, because so many people that know me, I want them to, they'll learn from understanding that I have ADHD, that immediately it will trigger for others, like, oh my gosh, I know someone that's a lot like Tanya. I bet you they have ADHD, or etc. So I want to do it very gently and purposefully. So as far as the Instagram, no, I haven't. I'm right on the cusp though, Megan. I'm ready.
You sound ready, and you sound like you've got all the right things to say. And so I want to make sure we get into lots of questions here, but I really encourage you to just go on and show up as yourself. And if that means just doing it incrementally and trying, you know, maybe your job right now is to drop the perfectionism. And
Yeah.
that is the thing to focus on, because that's going to stop you.
This is why I'm so great at helping the other people.
I know. Okay, so
Thank you, Megan.
thank you, Tanya, and thank you for sharing that. And I really encourage you to give that a shot on Instagram, because that is going to resonate with a lot of people, and nobody is going to care one bit about all the other stuff that you think is really important. And I'm telling you that from lots of experience. Okay, Barbara, my clients' biggest problems are aging, skin, acne, having proper foundation, shades, and complementary makeup. I get to make my clients feel beautiful in their skin. I love that. So Barbara, you can come on if you want to. I know that you are on Facebook really actively, and I'm in your group, and you do Facebook Lives. Is there something that's stopping you from moving on to Instagram?
Not really, just I wouldn't say time. I mean, just trying to figure out the different platforms, and so yeah, just got to give it a whirl sometimes. And it's kind of one of those funny things where if you get consistent with one platform, I totally recommend that, by the way, you know, to do that. And then with Instagram, it was kind of a newer platform for me, and I think everyone's probably trying to navigate what's been going on the last 18 months, where to spend your time, and so on. So I was kind of in and out with Instagram for a bit. So I've tried to be a little bit more present with Instagram. And I think right now it would be just scheduling something and just giving it a go. Like you said too, you know, a couple points you raised about reposting. Was it a reel? I think you said. So if it didn't get much traction the first time, try posting it again. I think that was a solid piece of advice. And so now that I kind of have a better understanding of what the type of different lives are, I'll definitely start at it, because I'm way over looking perfect. You know, it's just you know, just do it. And I'm past caring about what other people think. And if I goof up, so what? I'm real. I'm human. Yeah. So I think that's what
I
I'll
don't want
probably
to spend
do.
$5,000 talking to people where I can't be myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have a makeup person where I'm going to have to feel stiff, or where I'm going to feel pressured into buying stuff. I want to see you and see how natural and awesome you are, and how much you care about people, and you're really engaging and warm personality, because that's going to make me sign up for your stuff, as opposed to somebody else who I just don't feel remotely connected to.
Yeah.
But Barbara, the other thing to remember, and I want to make sure this is for other people, you can repurpose stuff with all of the different platforms. Now, I know for you, Facebook is a really great place for you to build relationships. Yeah. And the thing about social media is you sort of have to commit to it, right? So you have to, maybe you want to commit to 2 posts a week to start. Mm-hmm. Like if anybody who follows me will see, I post at least every day. I've got lots of stories happening all the time. I'm almost never on Facebook. And because I don't have I don't have time to be that active in Facebook, and it just has never been a platform for that has had a lot of engagement with my clients. But with Instagram, I have. And so if for all of you who are looking to start building your profile in Instagram, the thing you want to do is commit to consistency for even just 4 weeks. So say for 4 weeks, I'm going to do 2 to 3 posts a week, and I'm going to spend half an hour every other day engaging with the people who've engaged with my posts, searching hashtags that relate to my business, asking questions, liking things, saying, this is such a great product, thank you so much for sharing it with me, just building that sort of engagement. And that can really help build your profile and help you make connections. So thanks, Barbara. And I'm just going to make sure I get through these couple of slides because I can talk a lot, as you already know. So here are some quick tips. Know exactly who you're speaking to. We've already talked about that. Practice controlled breathing ahead of time. We've mentioned that, but it is such an important thing to do. Use your physicality. If you shrink, we can see it. So that even means if you're sitting in front of your computer, I can tell you right now, I've got my feet flat on the ground ahead of me and I am sitting straight up. Every once in a while, I'll move to cross-legged, but I still keep myself really really open, and that helps keep my energy levels up. Practice what you're going to say so that you don't waste your audience time. Be concise, be passionate. Don't ever fake it. Just don't. You might feel awkward at first, and that's okay. And you're going to watch your video and be like, oh, I'm so awkward. And that's normal because you're just learning. You can delete that if you feel like it, or you can leave it up as, you know, if you're going to want to commit to this. But we all have a learning curve, and we only keep getting better if we keep doing things. So, and here's some ways to generate ideas. Spend some time watching other people's videos, especially reels. If you go to your search function of Instagram in the top right corner, that's where reels are going to be. You can click that and just skim through reels. You start to notice trends. What are the sounds that people are using? What lip syncs are really popular right now? If you don't want to sing and if you don't want to lip sync and dance or do any kind of movement, don't do that. Personally, I find it sort of fun to do that. That may not be something within your wheelhouse that you like. Don't do it. Totally fine. Save music or audio trends that you like. You can do that. And again, I'm going to turn this off in a second so I can show you things on my phone if you want to see them. You can create drafts of stories and reels and save them for later view. So whenever my daughter's not home, which is, you know, rare these days, she's 10, I batch a bunch of Instagram reels. So through the week, I'll be saving audio that I think is really neat, that I get sparked for an idea. I always want to talk about tips and tricks or things that I don't agree with, or something to help you along the way. And, you know, you can share, you can use that in interesting ways on reels. So I share the music and then I'll jot down ideas through the week. And I actually have a notes in my phone, and that's where I keep my ideas a lot of the time. And then I will do like 5 or 6 and I'll save them as drafts, and then I'll post them again after some experience. I know for me, Tuesdays, Thursdays around 10:30, that's when my reels are going to have the most traction. That seems to have shifted in the last 2 weeks, but solidly for about 3 months, that was what worked. And so you sort of start to see, okay, well, this seems to work for me. And then you be consistent about that. And so I'll have like 5 or 6 ready to go. And then I just sort of turn them out as time comes up. And that is it. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides and just going to field questions for the next 10 minutes. Has anybody started to work on their reel that they came with an idea for? Let's see, the realness is what people will connect to. Sean, 100%. Totally agree with the consistency and planning piece. Yes, Barbara. Spice Girls. Yeah, that's me. Big Spice Girls fan. Are there free apps or web-based tools for video editing on desktops and Android smartphones? Yes, I'm sure there are, Tina. And if anybody has any suggestions for her, please please let her know. iMovie. Yep. So does anybody have any sort of specific questions? I'm going to open up Instagram right now. So here's where I get my ideas from. I go to the search function. I don't even know if this is a good idea. Right at the bottom here, the little magnifying glass. There's a bit of a naked lady here, so sorry about that in advance. In the top left corner is a reel. I look at it, and I'll look at the next one, look at the next one, just keep going to get ideas. And then if you look at the very bottom is where the audio is. If you click it, it takes you here, and then at the top it has save audio. And then when you go to make your reels, there's music notes, and you can either, it'll say recommended for you or saved, and you can go into the saved and you can find all of the audio that you've saved that you can use over top of your reel. Is that helpful for people? Anybody else have any questions?
I do have, Megan. It's about hashtag again. It's Paula here. So
Hi,
I
Paula.
understand, like, when you tag someone, the person's gonna see the tag. So do you recommend when you put your hashtags on the bottom, like let's suppose I use organic, health, wellness, whatever, and there's this person like you, I follow you, you share the same ideal clientele, whatever. Would you recommend hashtagging the person for people that follows that person to see your stuff, or people, if I hashtag Megan Hamilton, for example, no, okay, you don't recommend
No, and you want to be really careful. So here are some no-nos in terms of Instagram and some mistakes that I've seen along the way. Tagging people that you don't know, that you want them to see your stuff. That's really annoying to people who, might get tagged a lot.
Okay.
I've also seen people, slide into my DMs and say things like, hey, I love your account. Can I ask you a question? This was happening. I don't know what coach told people that this was a good idea, but you knew right away that they were going to pitch something to you. Usually people do not want to be cold pitched in their Instagram DMs. So be really careful about that. I will just say to somebody, hey, I know what you're about to do, and that's okay. I'm not really interested, just to sort of save us the awkwardness that might come from that. Those are I also see people. Here's another tip. There are accounts that are fake, here's the type of sort of spammy account that I'll get. It's somebody pretending to be a man, often a military man or a doctor. And they will have like a name with like 57942. They just started their account within the last 24 or 48 hours. It's usually about 6 pictures on their grid, them doing heroic things, and possibly with children, and saying like, I'm a good dad or something. They follow me. I block those people immediately, because if you've got a bunch of spammy accounts that don't actually engage with you, following you, and they're not engaging with you, that affects your algorithm. Instagram rewards you for having a high engagement rate, sort of like for those of us with email lists. If you don't have a lot of opens with your email lists, your email is not going to show up. It's going to go to spam, or it's going to go to other sections of your email where it's not as easily seen. The same is true for Instagram. And so if I get the slightest hint, there's like a lot of there's a lot of different types of accounts that are going to follow you, and right away, like, you're not going to build a relationship with this person. They're a fake account. And that doesn't mean and I mean like the really obvious ones, because you never know, then yeah, I'll block them right away. But yeah, don't tag people that you don't know personally. And don't slide into people's DMs with cold pitches. It doesn't help with engagement. In fact, it can just feel really creepy.
Yes, I'm asking because I've been, someone told me like to do this, whatever, to increase, your people following, whatever. But my gut was telling me like, geez, I would hate if someone comes and do that to me. Why I'm doing to others? My gut feeling was like, I'm not following your advice. Doesn't matter how much, you charge for a service. Like, and you're the second person that I've asked. Like, I need like, I think a second or third opinion, because I couldn't not bring myself to do it. I didn't want to do it that way.
Don't ever do anything on Instagram that makes you feel gross.
Okay.
Trust your gut. Yeah, you hit it, Paula. You're like, my gut was telling me, there it is.
Because
there
I
it
hate it, with me. If someone tried to do this with my business, I'm like, what the hell? Like I would not enjoy it. So why I'm stalking other people and do the same to them? That's what I'm asking.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. That's my advice.
Okay, thank you.
That's awesome. So I know that we're at time. And so I do want to thank everyone for the questions, and to Megan for hosting, or for delivering, all sorts of tidbits and information. I know many of you are like, I didn't get it all. It's okay. Later on today, it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel as I did it share. So if you're looking for the YouTube channel, you're like, you didn't copy it down, you can email me. You all have my email through Eventbrite at the very least. So reach out if you don't know where that YouTube channel is. But if you do, and you already subscribed, and that's, by the way, the best way, because every time that I post something new, if you subscribed it, you'll get a little notification. So thanks so much to everyone. I appreciate your time today. And Megan, thank you so much. High five over there.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks so much, everyone.
I just want to say one more thing too, if that's okay. Okay, so we talked about coming with an idea and creating an Instagram video. So the way that I want to help us all engage with each other, if you go ahead and make it, please tag me, and then I will share your video in my feed. And for those of you who want to engage with this, follow me, and then you can see me sharing everything through my stories. You can click through and engage with the posts, and that way we can help encourage everybody to keep going, and to keep trying, and to keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, so that you can start to feel really awesome when you show up on Instagram. And thank you.
That's awesome. Great homework for everybody. Let's do that for sure. All right. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon and have a great day. Wherever you may be. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.